Strange sounds. I woke up at exactly 3:22 a.m., and the moment I opened my eyes, I heard what sounded like a large group of people singing. They weren't speaking any recognizable words. It was more like a powerful, haunting chorus. It was loud, almost as if a choir was standing right outside my house. It was surreal, and honestly, I was terrified. A strong wind suddenly picked up outside, making everything feel even more eerie. The sound lasted for about 10 seconds, then faded into silence. The calm that followed was so intense that it made me nervous. I ended up turning on the TV just to break the quiet because I was genuinely that scared. Has anyone else experienced something like this? There was no radio on, no people outside, or no cars. Absolutely nothing. It was one of the most bizarre and incredible things that's ever happened to me. Whenever I hear about these oral experiences, I always have to wonder if the sound is actually being transmitted through the air or if it's just in the person's head. If the latter, it could point to either a supernatural or ordinary event. But either way, something unexplained is happening here. It's just a question of if it's a ghost or some extra dimensional being versus an undiscovered error in the human brain or some new constellation of medical symptoms. I think this is definitely something paranormal. When I lived in this Victorian house with my family, my sister and I kept hearing strange noises like that. I'd never experienced anything like it before. My house isn't old, and I'm the only one who's ever lived in it. I'm not sure if it was a ghost, since that sound came from the street. What scared me the most was the wind that followed right after. Honestly, I'm still trying to find a logical explanation. It was like many people were singing together in a choir at the same time. What kind of noises did your sister hear exactly? Well, my sister also heard singing like you'd hear in a church. I've heard something like this before, from a video from a guy who goes out trying to capture paranormal footage, focusing on a certain area in New Zealand. I might be wrong, but it's the eeriest sound I've ever heard. But also, weirdly, it sounds like something I've heard before somehow. I'll see if I can find it. This is a clip from Mountain of Entities. If you'd like to hear more, you can look him up. This is just a small clip from what he heard in the remote mountains of New Zealand.
The voices I'm hearing.
I will also try to isolate the sound.
The voices I'm hearing.
I live in Mexico, and honestly, the sound was exactly like what you just showed. It sounded like a group of women humming together, almost like a ghostly choir. They weren't singing words, just this soft, haunting melody. The best way I can describe it is like a mother humming a lullaby to her baby. It was such an eerie, otherworldly sound. I'd never heard anything like it before. Watching that video gave me the chills because it's the closest thing I've found to what I experienced. I really wish I had recorded it, but in that moment I was frozen with fear and it happened so fast. What scared me the most was the deep silence that came right after they stopped humming. It sounds like you had an angel experience. There are a lot of different ways they make themselves known, such as singing, flashes of light, white feathers, etc. For example, I'm a kindergarten teacher, and one day during class I was teaching my kids new vocabulary with these flashcards. I placed them on the ground right in front of me, and there were no doors or windows open during this time, but out of nowhere, this perfect white feather came floating down from the ceiling. It landed on the cards, and everyone in the classroom got all quiet and just stared at this mysterious object with this calm smile on their faces, like we all understood what just happened. The strangest thing was to see these 5-year-old kids that are normally bouncing off the walls just sit there in peace and enjoy the moment. So I just put it in my pocket, smiled, and got back to work. I don't know, I could see that being a down feather from a jacket. I heard a voice in my grandma's house.
So the first thing I want to say is that this is completely real. I'm not joking. I'm not telling like some like scary stuff just to make you scared or something. No, this really happened. So it was a year ago approximately. No, it was 2 years ago. Yes, I was in Mexico in a trip. It was like 3 a.m. because I remember it was very dark outside, and it's something that is really not normal here in the United States because there is a lot of light contamination outside. But here in Mexico, that doesn't happen. So when you go see the stars in Mexico, in some places even the galaxy you can kind of see it. It's very dark in Mexico. So I was in the second floor. There was just a light bulb on, and I was scrolling on my phone, and I said, okay, well, it's time to sleep. So what happened is that when I stood up to turn off the light, the bed made a creaking sound. Alright, so that's one thing that I want to say right now because it's going to be very crucial next. The bed made a cracking noise. Then I stood up so I can turn off the bulb. When I turned it off, I heard a very deep voice saying, boy. It was a very pitched down voice, almost imperceptible. I completely froze in place. I was like, what? And it was on the bed because it already cracked. So I was just like there, standing with the bulb off in complete darkness. And I was like, what do I do? I'm not sleeping here. I'm not sleeping in this room. Clearly, I'm scared. So my mother or my grandma, which my grandma was in the room besides me. So I said, if I scream, they're gonna come here and they're gonna see me, and I'm gonna be safe. But I didn't want to wake them up because it was already like 3 a.m. It wasn't their fault that I was in my phone. So I said, all right, I'm gonna make a run for it. I'm gonna open the door. I'm gonna run straight to my grandma's room. But it took me like 5 to 10 seconds to gain the value because as I said, I was very scared. And whenever I run for it, I run as fast as I could. I turn off the light rapidly with my phone, and I explained it to my grandma what was happening. And she was like freaking out like, no, what happened? Why are you like that? What happened? And I explained to her, you won't believe me what just happened. I'm gonna tell you tomorrow. Just let me sleep here because right now I don't really want to talk about it. So she said, oh yes, sleep here. So I was safe now, but that's something that keeps in my mind because it was very real. It never happened to me before. The next day, I explained everything to my grandma and my mom, which was in the farthest room. And when I went to with my grandma to buy some things, and when I came back to my house, my mom said that she already blessed the room. Like she grabbed some divine water, holy water, and made some prayers and sprayed the water through the room. So I was like, oh well, I guess that's it. Either way, I didn't sleep in that room after that.
Another simple but hair-raising story. I think we've all been in a similar situation, up late at night when everything's quiet, but to suddenly be shocked by a deep whisper over your shoulder is such a distinct feeling that I doubt the storyteller would misconstrue anything else, such as a creak, for such a distinctive sound.
I remember that my mom told me that some years ago, like I wasn't even born yet. It was like in 1998. My uncle was sleeping in the room that I had. Like the room where this happened, it was his room when he was younger. And my grandma had a lot of childs. I have a lot of aunts and uncles. My mom told me that one day he was in his room and everyone was outside. He was the only one inside of the house at the time. So you can already imagine how does that feel. And then he heard some steps in the first floor because he was in the second floor. So my uncle just said, "Oh, they came back." So he went downstairs to say, "Oh, what happened? What did you buy?" And like that. But when he went down, he didn't find nothing. So he freaked out and he just went to his room back. The house itself isn't very scary, but there's a vibe of it. There's like you can feel it in the air. You can feel that it's kinda dark. I wish I could tell someone the place, the coordinates, so you can see the house, but they're already living there. My grandma is living there yet. But one day I'm gonna tell someone where the coordinates are, so you can see it by yourself and feel it by yourself. I assure you 100% that there's something in that house. You can feel it. It's the vibe. It's something like when you go downstairs from the second floor to the first floor, you feel that someone or something is watching you. I swear to God that I always felt that. We even made jokes about that. And it's something very, very, very weird with that house. I feel like there's something that my grandma hasn't told me yet because there's no way that's a coincidence.
This was Dante Calvino. Let me know what you thought of the format for these stories, or if you have one of your own to tell. If you enjoyed this video, subscribe for more mystery every week.